Welcome, welcome, welcome back to Before You Do. I'm Verlyn Tarlton, your host and favorite premarital coach. Thank you for joining me. Today's topic is let's be ladies again. And what does that mean? When I think about the conversations I've had, the first thing that comes to mind, women say, well, dresses and skirts. I'm not into dresses and skirts. I'm not here to talk about dresses and skirts so much. That is actually, in my opinion, a part of being a lady. I'm more or less talking about the mindset that goes with being a lady versus just a woman or a female. But while we're on the topic of dresses and skirts, there is something that has to come to the forefront, and that is being a lady, the way we carry ourselves with dignity, with pride, with class. There was a movement or a time, I'll put it that way, when I was coming up, and ladies did wear skirts and dresses, or if they wore trousers or pants, it was something that was fitted to them as women. And then we got to this phase of what I heard was it's about comfort. And it's like during this comfort phase, we threw that away. It was like throwing some sweatpants and throwing something on top of your head and just run to the store, run to the post office or whatever. And I think that did such a disservice to us as ladies because we didn't care anymore how we went out. We didn't care anymore about our presentation to the world. And while we understand that everything is not about looks and that may be superficial, it still counts. How we carry ourselves as women and how we present ourselves when we are at home or in public, it really does matter. How we keep ourselves, how we groom ourselves. And again, back to the dresses and skirts, that may not be a big thing now in 2025, but I'm going to tell you, ladies, men do miss that. They miss women having that feminine touch. And the truth of the matter is, the only distinction between male and female is the feminine aspect. And maybe you would say, well, that's not the only distinction. There are many other things. A clear distinction between male and female is our femininity. When we consider everything around us, all that we see, this gender war, we need to look at what it is that we can do. Where can we take responsibility on how we attribute to this or the separation or the divide? The whole femininity thing is an attitude in how you are perceived because of the way you carry yourself. What do I mean? Okay. So let's say you don't get into dresses and skirts, but you are at least neatly groomed, wearing things that say, I am a woman. And I'm not talking about revealing and showing all of your personal body parts, because that's another thing that moves us away from femininity. When we feel we have to show everything, that's not feminine. We're putting ourselves on display. And back in my day, I remember the older women saying, leave something to the imagination. Just don't show it all, right? I miss those days when we had Big Mama. I talked about that before. Big Mama and Auntie. So I'm going to play Big Mama and Auntie today. Leave something to the imagination. Being feminine does not mean exposure. Those are two different things. We're not talking about exposing yourself, saying I'm a woman. No, in your attitude. Femininity as in softness. Some people might say, why do we have to be soft? Why do we have to be hard? We are the only culture where our women are so rewarded. That's a badge of honor, being hard. It's not a badge of honor. Our music is so weaponized against us that we have actually fallen into that trap where we are acting the way we are programmed because of the music, because of social media. Far before social media, we had TV, right? The music spoke about love. We talked about wanting each other. We talked about being together. The Temptation said, I ain't too proud to beg. The music brought us together. And now fast forward, 30 years? It's totally different. And I'm not even going to get into all the genres and all the ratchet things that are out there. I'm sure we are aware. They encourage us to shake stuff and do stuff and just a bunch of debauchery. Debauchery that we don't see in other cultures. And so, my sisters, what I'm saying is this. Let's be ladies again. Let's talk with class. Let's talk with dignity. Let's walk with class. Let's walk with dignity. And what does that mean? You can be covered and beautiful and classy. You can express yourself with respect and giving respect. You can express yourself with soft words. What I'm saying is, we don't have to be loud and boisterous and seen. You can make a point very softly. I've done this myself when I was in a classroom. And there's proof that when you use a quiet voice, people tend to stop talking and listen for whatever reason that is. Now, someone else may say, well, if you yell and say, be quiet or whatever, but if everybody else is yelling, you're really just joining in the noise. And so if you can speak with grace, okay? What does speak with grace mean? I'll give you some practical examples. When I'm dealing with my husband, and let's say I have to present an issue, I don't come at him and talk at him. I may sit down and say, you know what, this happened. It could be something with the children. It could be something that went wrong between the two of us. I will come with him in respect. If we're out in public, I'm not going to bring up the issue, okay? If he says something I don't like, I'm not going to right out in front of everybody at a restaurant or at a cookout or a park and say, what you say? Don't be saying that about me. I'm not going to do that. I may give him a look that lets him know, hey, you know, that's enough. May give him a little tap on the knee under the table. There are so many subtle ways that we can be ladies. And it doesn't include cursing. It doesn't include being loud. It doesn't include being disrespectful. It doesn't include the head nodding and the finger going. All of those things, let me tell you, really it's played. Like, the men are so done with that. And for you all who are saying, well, I'm about pleasing myself. I'm not doing everything for a man. Good, then maybe this isn't for you. But I'm talking to the women who want to be ladies. And especially because this podcast is geared more to women who want to be wives, who are looking to maintain the marriages that they're already in, then this is for you. Being a lady is almost a lost art. Again, if you're in public and something doesn't go the way you would like it to go, that's not the time to address it. Being a lady means, okay, I'm going to take a note and we'll have this conversation at home and addressing it at home. It doesn't mean you have to put your man on the spot and tell him off in front of everybody because he said something that you didn't like. Or he said something about your mama in a joke, right? No, being a lady means knowing when to speak, when not to speak. Am I talking about being subservient? Because that's the other thing you think, oh, a lady has to be mealy-mouthed. I'm not saying that. We have to be able to know the difference between a soft answer and being subservient. They're not the same, right? Pretend like you're at work. When you have an issue with your boss, he may do something or shoot you an email or deny your leave. Do you go at him? What you say to me? How are you not going to give me my leave? I've been working for this company. No. You're going to put some respect on that, right? You're going to go to him. Why? Because you don't want to lose your job. And so we do innately have an idea of what being a lady is about. It's about showing respect. It's about walking with pride and dignity and having class. It's an attitude where you come into a place and you command that space. You don't have to demand it. You command it by just the essence of being soft. One of the things I learned is there is a power in silence. And I may get some flack and some negative comments. Why are you trying to silence my voice? That is not what I'm saying. I am saying that most of us do not even understand what it means just to be silent. 2 weeks ago, I hosted my first silent retreat, and it was absolutely amazing, where we actually sat in silence and we ate in silence and we did things outside in nature and we sat around reading, but everything was silent. It was about 7 ladies, I think. And imagine that, getting 7 ladies all together in a house and we're practicing silence. Here's the thing. You would be so surprised at what you hear, the details you hear when you listen and are silent. And so what am I saying? Sometimes we feel like we just got to say something. I need to get this straight. I need to address this. Sometimes silence is the answer. Sometimes you being silent gives the other party an opportunity to think. Sometimes when I'm trying to get my thoughts together and my husband or my children will come to me and I'm saying, wait a minute, give me a minute. Let me get my thoughts together. Let me write this down. Sometimes our men need that silence just to get some thoughts together, even before we approach them with things. Silence is a gift. And you can be in a room and be silent, and you can still be heard. That's a lady thing. When you can walk into a room and you don't have to announce yourself, that's class. That's dignity. That's being a lady. Style. I'm not saying keeping up with trends. I'm saying being in style, being well put together, not just throwing on anything. I know that when I go to the grocery store or if I run errands, go to the school, anywhere in my community, I am put together as if I want to, first of all, represent myself. And then I know I represent my husband, right? And so I'm not going to just throw on some sweatpants and a sweatshirt. And I know people are like, what are you talking about? That's what I like to wear. Well, that might be the problem. Sometimes we need to take some time out and look at how we are presenting ourselves. And as quiet as it's kept, or we may not want to understand this. Again, if you want to be a wife, if you are a wife and you're newly married and you're trying to hold on to that man and be a good wife, let me tell you, men care about how you represent yourself. However, they mostly care about how you represent them. And so when I go out, whether it's by myself, with my children, with my husband, I look the same. I don't look one way when I'm by myself, frumpy and, just throwing some dirty old dress that's wrinkled up and crumbly, and then, try to dress up when I go out with my husband. I look the same way all the time. I make sure my hair is groomed. I make sure my teeth are brushed. I make sure of certain basic hygienic qualities. In addition, I am looking like I belong to somebody. What do I mean by that? I'm representing myself as a lady. I'm not going to be out cursing somebody out because they said something I didn't like. I'm not going to be looking at people like I'm in fight mode. And I'm not thinking that every time a man says hello to me or how you doing, that I got to roll my eyes or don't speak to me. Or looking at them like they committed a crime. There are some men who are just decent. My husband is one of them. He's a very, very people person. Hey, how you doing? He'll say that to the cashier. He'll say that to the person pushing the carts in from the grocery. He's not flirting. He's not after anybody. That's just how he is. So I understand that there are men that are going to say, hello, how are you? Nice dress, nice whatever. Thank you. And that's it, right? Being a lady is something I think that's missing in our culture, being talked about, which is why I'm talking about it. And I know partially that's because we have been hurt, ladies. I am not discounting that. We have been disappointed. We have been hardened in a sense. And guess what? We need to deal with that too. whether it's therapy, whether it's going back, talking to the person, saying, hey, this happened and this is how I feel about this. We got to find a way to heal so we won't be so jaded, so we won't be so hardened, so we won't be at war. Years and years ago, this has actually been decades ago, I belonged to this church, and it was a great church. And I remember one of the songs that we were singing was about being a warrior woman. And I was in I must have been in my late 20s. And I was jamming too. You know, I'm a warrior woman, and we were all pumped up and hyped. And then when we finished the song, and I'll always remember this, the pastor got up. It was a male and female pastor. And I remember he said, and he didn't say it in a nasty, I'm offended kind of way, but he said, who are you warring against? I have always remembered that. And even when he said it, I don't know, 20 some years ago, I was like, that's a good question. And I guess, everybody said the typical, I'm not going to get into that. But I had to rethink that. And I still think about that. When we are talking about warrior woman, who are we warring against? Have you ever asked yourself? And 20 some years ago, I was like, yeah, who am I warring against? And I listened to the other responses. I was like, oh, okay. But now in retrospect, I look back and I was like, that was a heck of a good question. Why are we always made to feel like we have to be warrior women? We have to be hard. It's a lot to think about. It's a lot to consider. During these times when we do have these gender wars, now it was like that was foreshadowing. Now, who are we warring against? Our own. The ones that we're supposed to respect, love, cherish, build families with, be in community with. We are warring against them. We don't want to be ladies. We want to be men. Unfortunately, we have been put in positions where we have had to be the man of the house. For whatever reason, we have made not the best of choices. And as we deal with these choices, they force us to be hardened. They force us to almost step into a male role. But we have to find a way to pivot. We have to find a way to heal, to tap into that feminine again. Being a lady is not a bad thing. It is not a bad word. It does not take anything from your strength. It doesn't take away from being who you are. Being soft is not going to make you a victim, because in your softness, you will attract one who would cherish that. Men are not looking to be at war anymore. They're not looking to have to combat a woman who wants to act like a man. We have to find the lady in us again. Let's be ladies again. Let's embrace femininity. Let's embrace softness. Some of the things that I saw, I wasn't necessarily taught in my home. And so there are things I picked up along the way from other ladies when I was growing up in my church. And that is, number one, they always carried themselves as ladies. I noticed most of the time, and this is maybe, say, well, she's from the old school. They cooked. There wasn't Uber and there wasn't, DoorDash. Like, the women back in my day actually cooked meals. And as quiet as it's kept, men still like to eat real food cooked by a real woman from home. It's good to go out every now and then. My husband and I, we make date nights and we go out, and it's nice to have someone prepare the food and bring the food. I love it. And then I don't have to clean up or make my children clean up. But my husband still likes a home cooked meal. He still likes for me to fix and prepare food. It is a love language. I don't care what anybody says. Food is a love language. And when you are still wanting and available and cooking for your man. And I'm not saying that's a deal breaker, but I'm saying it does put you in the mindset of being a lady. What's wrong with serving? Why is that such a bad word? It's not in my book. We need to rethink some of the things that we've been taught. We need to rethink social media altogether and get back to being a lady. Am I saying ladies just wear dresses and cook and clean? Absolutely not. What I'm saying is a lady is one who, again, exudes class, style, dignity, softness. The type of lady that a man would want on his arm, whether he's at a gathering, at a social event, at anything dealing with business, or just walking around in the grocery store. And I'm going to tell you this, and I can only speak from experience. I've been married almost 19 years in December, and almost every day, and even if I don't leave the house, when I get myself prepared and groomed in the morning, and my husband comes home, he looks at me and he says, "You look so good. I need to take you out somewhere." Men are just always going to be men. Men want and this is subjective, whatever the man thinks is pretty or beautiful or lovely, he wants a lady with him. He wants a lady by his side. Again, this doesn't even matter. We're walking around in Food Lion, right? We have to really think outside of what we want and how we want it, and think about what we really want. And what is that? If you want to be a wife, you want to be married, not get married, you want to be married and stay married, you're going to have to rethink this whole what it means to be a lady. Because the men out here, they're not looking for another man. They're looking for a lady. They're looking for some softness. They're looking for that feminine quality that will balance out the masculine quality. And that's what it is. When you have masculine and masculine, that's not always a formula for cooperation and peace. It may be a formula for war, which is why we're so at war. When I just look sometimes at these videos and I listen to the attitudes of the ladies, and I mean, they're so angry and they're so combative, and the neck is going and the fingers going and the curse words are coming out. And it's like, oh my goodness, talking to these men in such ways that I know I have 3 sons. I wouldn't want what I see out here for any of my 3 sons. I would not want some of this tension, this battling, and this whole attitude as I'm going to tell you how I feel and you better take it or leave it, or making these demands. No. That's not what being a lady is about. You have so much more power in your feminine energy than trying to operate in the masculine. You wonder why you're not being noticed, or you wonder why you're not married yet. Check and see. Take a look at yourself before you leave the house. Up and down, look at yourself. Look at your hair, look at your nails, look at your clothes, how they fall. Like, ladies don't even wear slips these days. And it's not just about being able to see through your dress. It's also about how the dress falls. When you wear a slip under your dress, it's something about the fabric or the way it's made where it helps your dress to fall nicely. That's not something you hear people talk about anymore. I'm having these talks because I love our people. I want to see our people back together, thriving and building. I want to see our marriage percentages go up and not continue to decline. And ladies, we can do our part. We can do our part. Let's be ladies again. I'm definitely going to do a part 2 where I'm going to have some very specific things lined up, some very specific points. But in the meantime, check yourself. Before you leave out, check what you have on. Check how it fits. Check your mouth before you speak. Are you speaking like a lady, or are you speaking like a dude? Are you speaking like you're ready to fight somebody? Are you on the warpath? Or are you able to be soft and gentle and be a lady that a man would be proud to have on his arm? To be a lady that a man would be so happy to choose as his wife because your feminine quality speaks louder than anything else. Thank you for listening. Please like, share, subscribe. I have a wonderful couples vision board on my website, verlyntarlton.com. V as in Victor, ERLYNTARLTON.com. I have a digital magazine and other free resources. Until next week, may you experience extraordinary love. Bye for now.